we all doing today? What is up, Internet? My name is Daryl, and welcome to the first ever art illustration video that I'm putting up on the channel. As seen in the thumbnail today, I just wanted to show my coloring process for how I do my line art and just illustrations in general that I usually make. Um, this is just going to be like a kind of informal time-lapse video just to show you guys how I think and my thought process on how I go about choosing colors and establishing lighting, all that good stuff. And what better way to do that than with taking an old illustration from a character from a series that I really like, Teen Titans, Starfire, and just redoing it. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. So right off the bat, what I like to do when I have my line art done for my illustration for characters is I like to go back in and create a thicker line. Basically, this just helps to create a stronger silhouette and also just help vary line weight when I'm doing illustrations like this. But aesthetically, I think that it looks really nice when you have a comic book style for a comic book character. So after my line art is done, what I typically do next is I use the lasso tool to create all the shapes for coloring in the next step. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm using the lasso tool and selecting all the sections with skin to then fill in with the paint bucket tool. Using this lasso tool makes it much easier going forward later on in the piece when I go to add color, because I don't have to worry about coloring outside of the lines or outside of the paints that I am using. And I pretty much rinse and repeat this process until the entire figure is full color. Usually when I do these selections and fill them with color, there tends to be some dead space or just like little areas of white. So I'll usually double back in and just paint over those with a standard round brush. This is just creating less work for me in the long run, so I don't get to the end of the project and see that one sliver of dead space and think to myself, oh my god, there's a dead space, just throw the whole project in a dumpster. It just makes it a lot easier, and a lot cleaner too. So for Starfire's hair, I decided to use a red, but instead of just leaving it completely red, I decided to do a gradient shift. So I selected the red that I had made in the lasso tool and then used a gradient on that red and just dragged it with orange to give that nice transition. So once I had all my base colors established on my figure, I decided to start flirting around with some of the background ideas that I had. Nothing was really concrete. I just had a general idea of maybe trying to do some kind of atmospheric flying scene where Starfire is flying over clouds and maybe you see a sunset in the background. But, like I said, nothing's concrete. So this is just kind of like me showing you guys some of my trial and error, but definitely mostly just error at this point in the stage because I didn't have any concrete idea of what I wanted to do, so things were just kind of subject to change after that. So after flirting with the idea of the background, I decided to put that on the back burner and establish my lighting. This is where using that lasso tool came into play from earlier, and I just selected the base colors that I used and started using gradients to define my light source. Then I would go in and just start painting with a lighter color to try to get a good sense of where the lighting is hitting on my character. Usually I'll have two layers filled with lights. So the first light layer is just kind of a lighter tone for whatever color I'm using, and that's on a normal layer. For my values where they're the absolute brightest, I use a filter or a setting on the layer option called linear dodge, and that just helps blast the color up a little bit more so it heightens the contrast between lights and darks. So at this point, I started thinking about the energy spheres and how I wanted them to look. But the problem at this point was that by adding some form of light to them, it made it look flat with the line art that was around it. So I ended up deciding to just get rid of the line art completely and would think of a better idea after that. So the same way that I handle lights is the same way that I handle shadows. Instead of using a lighter gradient, I'll use a darker gradient. In this instance with the purples, I just basically base the shadows on how far away the light source is. And then to give Starfire's costume or suit that shiny feel, since it's made out of some form of leather or some kind of shiny material, I just went in with a linear dodge layer again with the base purple that I had selected and just added little spots to pretty much give that illusion of the shiny form wrapping around her body. Once I have the established light and the established shadows, then it's just pretty much going in and painting in where light sits and where shadows sit on the body, and just kind of making sure that it looks cohesive and making sure that I'm following the rules that I set up for my lighting. So once I finished working on the suit and the skin, it was finally time to start moving on to the hair. Hair is definitely one of those things that when you do art, you realize less is more. And what I mean by that is instead of going in and painting every single strand of hair and going mad and giving yourself carpal tunnel, it's better to just kind of be suggestive with the hair. And I think I pull that off here by just basically using the darks to establish the flow, um, going from the roots of her head back to behind her body, and then adding little small elements back where the dark portions of the hair are kind of curling upwards or downwards. Definitely helps give that sense of flow. So after slam dunking the first energy sphere attempt in the garbage bin, I decided it was time to go back in, and basically my solution was to create these regular spheres and turn down the opacity and then use a Gaussian blur filter in Photoshop to basically blur them. And then after that, what I did was I created another layer on top of it and used linear dodge again to basically give the sense of light emitting from those energy spheres. Once I had felt satisfied with the energy spheres that I made, I decided it was time to go back in with the background. And for the background, I still had the same kind of general idea of wanting to have Starfire kind of flying through the air, or at least having that illusion that she's floating somewhere. And so what I did was I took a regular round brush and you messed with the scattering option to basically just be able to create the same shape but in varying sizes and varying distances from each other, just to make it feel more organic. So finally, it was time to bring that light source in that I had established earlier in the piece. And the way I used that was just by using a soft, round, standard basic brush in Photoshop and using a linear dodge layer and basically just painting where I felt the ray of light would land or look most pleasing on the character. And that's about it, guys. That wraps up the illustration for Starfire. The process took me about an hour and 45 minutes and was definitely fun. Down in the comments below, guys, let me know who your favorite Teen Titan is, or if your favorite show is Teen Titans Go, or just the original Teen Titans. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. I'll still be cooking up illustrations behind the scenes, and I hope you guys will be there in the next video. Until then, take care.